What it do? Welcome to another new episode of Locked On Bucks. On today's show, Giannis had 32 points, 11 rebounds to lead the Milwaukee Bucks past the Philadelphia 76ers, 114 to 105. The Bucks trailed by as many as 19 in this game, but they came back to win. It was an AJ Green podium game today, y'all. We're going to talk about it all on today's episode of Locked On Bucks.
You are Locked On Bucks, your daily Milwaukee Bucks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Bucks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Camille Davis. You can catch me weekly on the Technical Foul Podcast and the Pack a Day Podcast, as well as Cheesehead TV's Carry the G and MKE during the NFL season. I'm rocking solo today, and I appreciate you tuning in. And I also want to thank you for making Locked On Bucks your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts, as well as on YouTube. Special shout out to the YouTube community. Love the comments, love the interaction. So let's keep that going as well. Especially, we had a game to talk about, y'all. Okay, so the Milwaukee Bucks completed the season sweep against the Philadelphia 76ers with tonight's 114-105 win. With the scheduling this season, the Bucks only see the 76ers 3 times. But listen, this win did not come easy. Even though the 76ers were without Joel Embiid, the Milwaukee Bucks were without Chris Middleton still. Malik Beasley was a scratch as well for back spasms. There was no Marjon Beauchamp, but he hasn't really been in the rotation as much. But just, want to make sure I cover all my bases. The Bucks play was pretty uneven in the first half before they started to execute better in the second half. Really, the fourth quarter in particular, I always say basketball is a game of runs. That's one of my favorite old school basketball slogans, just about the game in itself. And that was really on display throughout this game. The first quarter opened with a Philly 6-0 run. Bucks had an 11-0 run. There's another 6-0 Philly run. Then the Bucks respond with a 7-0 run. Then Philly ended the first quarter on a 10-0 run. That was the story of the game. Just a lot of runs. And how will you respond to them when you're on the other end of it, when you're not able to make the buckets, when things are slowing down for you? How will you respond? Throughout the first half, the Bucks had too many turnovers. 10 turnovers in the first half, 5 in each quarter. The 76ers had 17 points off of 10 Bucks turnovers in the first half. That's the game average the 76ers tend to have when it comes to points off of turnovers. They got that in the first half against the Bucks. Just a little too loose with the ball, some uncharacteristic turnovers. We saw Bobby Portis with a couple of ugly ones where he's over dribbling, and next thing you know, he swarmed, he loses the ball. There was an easy pass, but he didn't have enough time after dribbling for a bit to get the ball out. And really quick on Bobby Portis, because I don't feel like I'm going to spend too much time on Bobby Portis throughout this episode, but I do want to shout him out a little bit. I know he had a bad first half. That's not what the shout out is about. It's something that Doc pointed out in the post game that I also had jotted down, which Doc in the post game press conference gave Bobby Portis credit for his composure. He mentioned how the first half went for Bobby Portis. It was not a good first half for Bobby. He was getting beat defensively. He was getting frustrated by the lack of foul calls. He had the turnovers, and he maintained his composure. That's what Doc pointed out. He said, you know how Bobby can be. We know Bobby, and that's very true. We know Bobby. Bobby is the energy of this team. He's the spark. We see how amped up he can get. That's part of why you love Bobby Portis, that energy. And in this game, he was really able to keep that in control and stay composed, because although Bobby Portis's streak of double-digit scoring games came to a close in this game, he only had 8 points tonight. So that means his streak of 15 straight games with double-digit scoring came to a close. But listen, Bobby played well in key stretches down the end towards the end of this game here. Like I mentioned, okay, fourth quarter. Dame got the scoring going for the Bucks in the fourth quarter. He had 4 points real quick. Boom, boom, boom. Next thing you know, here comes Bobby Portis. 4 points. And then AJ Green, who we are going to talk about. Trust me when I tell you we're going to talk about AJ Green. AJ Green knocked down 6 points of his own. He got fouled on a 3-point attempt, made his 3 free throws, hit a 3. And then next thing you know, you get another Bobby Portis bucket after the AJ 6 points. So pretty much During that stretch of scoring, Dame scored the first 4 points of the quarter, but then Bobby Portis and AJ Green on their own, the two of them, fueled a 12-3 Bucks run early in the fourth. And that was a key moment in the game because the Bucks were down 3 to start the quarter. They were down 3 after those 2 Dame buckets that he made. And when AJ got going and Bobby got going with some key points off the bench during a very crucial run, next thing you know, the Bucks are up 6 with 6:10 to go. And the Bucks did not relinquish the lead from that point on in the fourth quarter. Like, just got to give Bobby some love there because he did have a part in some key stretches down the stretch for this team. Although in the first half, he wasn't looking great. I appreciate seeing the composure of Bobby. I appreciate seeing the fact that Bobby didn't give up, kept going at it. You just love to see that from him. Like that's winning basketball right there, where things ain't going your way. You're not playing your best, but you don't give up on yourself and you don't get frustrated to the point where you cost your team, right? Bobby responded. I love to see that. Back to turnovers. The Bucks were better with their turnovers in the second half as well. They only turned the ball over 5 times throughout the entire second half, which only led to 6 76ers points. So it was good to see them clean that up in the second half, which was, again, a pretty big difference between the first half and the second half. All in all, with that being said, the Bucks did finish with 15 turnovers on the day. 76ers finished with 23 points off of those Bucks turnovers. So they cleaned it up a bit down the stretch, which you love to see. You also love to see Giannis leading the way for the Bucks. As mentioned in the open, he had 32 points, 11 rebounds, 7 assists. Now, he did also have 7 turnovers. I'm not going to gloss over that. Some of the turnovers he had in that second quarter stretch where I mentioned Bobby, some of them were uncharacteristic too. I haven't seen the baseline get Giannis that many times. It was twice where the pressure that the 76ers defense was putting on him, the handle just got a little loose. It got a little loose for him. He had 2 key turnovers there as well, a 3 seconds offensive called on Giannis as well. And he was getting frustrated throughout the game as well. He even got teed up at some point, but the refs were letting a lot of things go in this game. And like I mentioned, Giannis got pretty frustrated by it, but he kept playing. He kept playing. Regardless of the turnovers, he was able to create for his teammates. He was able to get key buckets. And speaking of key buckets, he also had those key free throws down the stretch. Giannis finished 14 of 18 from the free throw line tonight. That's 78% for Giannis from the free throw line. And that includes some key free throws for him. He was 4-4 down the stretch when he got intentionally fouled twice by the 76ers. Helped keep that lead that the Bucks had finally established in the fourth quarter alive with those key free throws. In addition to that, Giannis also tied his career high in 30-point games in the season with tonight's performance. He's up to 39 on the season. Bucks still have 15 games left to play, so it's a great chance, I would say, that Giannis is going to break his career record of 30-point games in the season. He has just been playing some lights-out basketball, as we have mentioned on this show as well. And now Giannis is also second all-time in steals in Bucks history. He just passed Paul Pressey, who had 895, and now Quinn Buckner is the last guy for Giannis to catch when it comes to leading the team in steals history. So shout out to Giannis on the milestones as well as helping lead the team. You saw the ball moving on drives and kicks throughout this game. Now, the Bucks knocked down some timely threes, and we saw how crazy cold they were against the Kings. They shot barely 18% from 3 against the Kings. They rebounded really well tonight against the 76ers, shooting 44% from the field. Philly shot well from 3 too. They shot about 49% from 3. So that wasn't the whole case. But what I did love from seeing the Bucks knock down those threes was some of the guys who were doing that. You saw Jay Crowder, right? Knocked down 3 of 6. He went 50% from 3. I've mentioned it before. Before the injury, the 9 games that he had before he got hurt, Jay was shooting 51.6% from 3. Since coming into this game, he was shooting 28% from 3. Good to see him have a really good shooting game. Again, I don't expect Jay Crowder to be a consistent 50% shooter from 3, but it's good to see the ball going in the hoop for him. Brook Lopez, 5 of 10. 10 threes for Brook Lopez. There was no Malik Beasley in this game, so some guys were going to have to put up some buckets, and Brook did that. Some deep shots, and some of them, it's like Real deep, Brooke. Like, I wonder if we can get a little bit closer for some of these shot attempts, but 50% from three. The Bucks needed all of that. And mentioning again how the Bucks looked better in the second half, fourth quarter in particular. But both of Brooks' blocks that he got tonight came in the fourth quarter. Very timely, both on Kelly Oubre. The second one was the most impressive one to me. Dame gets beat on a backdoor cut, and here comes Brooke to clean that up. You love to see it. Pat Bev was 2 or 3 from 3. He knocked down some really timely threes. AJ Green, 3 of 7 from 3, 14 points. There's so much more to discuss when it comes to AJ Green that it's just not going to fit into this segment. AJ Green deserves his own segment after this game. So we're going to talk about his play right after this. Our partners at eBay Motors have teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Basketball host Josh Lloyd to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week all season long. So whether you're prepping for a daily draft or you're scouting the waiver wire, every week we're going to provide you with players that are guaranteed to fit on your roster. And at this point in the season, given the fact that, we're getting closer to playoff time, it's really important to really hit on who you're putting into your lineup. So let's see who Josh has picked out for us on this week's eBay Guaranteed Fit Fantasy Picks of the Week. I'm going to select a name that's familiar to Bucks fans for a few different reasons, and that is Norm Powell. Now, Bucks fans, we know Norm. He been drafted here, never played here. All the Norm Powell revenge games, he always seems to cook the Bucks. But he's somebody who Josh Lloyd is pointing out because with Westbrook out and now Kawhi dealing with back spasms, back issues, Powell should be able to see his touches and minutes jump up during the next week or so while Kawhi continues to recover and while Westbrook is out of the lineup. Josh Lloyd from Locked On Fantasy Basketball is going to help you win your fantasy championship, and eBay Motors know the championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. It's the same with your vehicle. If you're an everydayer, listen to Locked On Bucks every day. You've heard me mention my first car, Rico. I loved Rico. That's how much I love my first car. I had to name it Rico, right? And towards the end, so many problems with that car. And it was kind of like, at this point, it is getting too expensive for me to keep it. As much as I love this car, it was too expensive. I wish I would have known about eBay Motors because I probably could have saved some bread and maybe even kept my car running even longer than it did. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly. Brake kits, LED headlights, roof rack, bumpers, whatever your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're going to be burning rubber and not cash. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers, eligible items only, and exclusions do apply. Time is so valuable because when you spend it, you can't get it back. So for everyone who tunes in to Locked On Bucks, thank you. I appreciate it truly. Special shout out to all the everydayers who tune in Monday through Friday. So much love for y'all. And as y'all know by now, especially the everydayers, Locked On has launched the first ever National Sports 24 streaming channel, Locked On Sports Today. And with baseball being around the corner, I'm going to need you baseball fans to mark your calendars because on March 20th, at 6 p.m. Central Time, the best MLB season preview is coming exclusively to Locked On Sports Today. Be the first to get local insights from the MLB local experts from the Locked On Podcast Network. Again, you can find it on March 20th at 6 p.m. Central Time on the Locked On Sports Today channel, on YouTube, or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Now, AJ Green, Derry Bird. For a while I was wondering why I was calling this man Derry Bird. I was like, what is it? And during his post-game presser tonight on the court, I was like, he do kind of favor Larry Bird. And we know he's the shooter. I get it. I'm understanding the Derry Bird nickname a little bit more. But listen, he had a really good game tonight. 14 points, 5 rebounds in 28 minutes. I was wondering what the lineups might look like tonight with Malik Beasley out. Was wondering if we might see, an Andre Jackson Jr. in the game. Nope. A heavy dose of AJ Green. And honestly, I'm not mad at it. It's the 4th time this season that AJ Green has reached double figures in scoring. And the timing of all this was just so interesting because ahead of the game, our friend Eric Name from The Athletic, He asked Doc Rivers about comments that Sacramento head coach Mike Brown made about the Bucks. And Mike Brown pretty much said, like, hey, the Bucks are a vet heavy team. They're going to run the vets. The young guys ain't going to get much tick, to sum it up. So Eric wanted to know just kind of his decision behind it. And Doc responded and said, it was because we were making changes. We just felt like the shorter the rotation with that, the better. AJ plays, so we still had him in, and Dre will probably have a chance here or there as well. But I would say one of these two guys will absolutely be a guy that helps us moving forward. I have no doubt about that. End quote. And listen, 28 minutes of AJ Green, I don't have a doubt about that anymore either. AJ Green needs to be getting consistent playing time on this Bucks team. He got into the game late in the first quarter. He remained in the game to start the second, where we saw the jumbo lineup that Doc loves to run out. But you had AJ Green in the lineup in place of Pat Bev. The lineup, in case you're unfamiliar, in this game, it was Pat Connaughton, AJ Green, Danilo Gallinari, Bobby Portis, and Giannis Antetokounmpo. The jumbo lineup because of Gallo, Bobby Portis, and Giannis. But AJ Green was in the game to start. I was like, okay, he's second quarter run, okay. And one shot that AJ Green made, which in the scheme of things, people can be like, okay, it's a mid-range jumper. But as teams continue to get more familiar with the AJ Green scouting report and really start to respect the burner that this man has, him having a consistent mid-range jumper, a pull-up in particular, is going to be a really solid weapon for him because teams are going to look to really run him off of that three-point line. He made some threes, some very key ones. I mentioned already how he helped spark the Bucks getting the lead in the fourth quarter on that 12-3 run that he went on with Bobby Portis. He also played some really solid defense on Tyrese Maxey, like better than I thought. There's been a couple games where AJ's come in the game and guys try him because it's like, listen, you a young dude. I don't see you play too often. You don't look super athletic, whatever the case may be. Let me try to give you this bucket on some ISO. AJ Green, I'm not saying he's Clamps. I'm not saying he's Drew Holiday, but I'm saying he holds his own. And he played some really solid defense on Tyrese Maxey to end the game. He nearly played the entire fourth quarter. He was taken out for the last few possessions of the fourth quarter for a Pat Bev sub for that defense. But we've seen the Bucks have problems against quick guards. We saw them have problems with Steph Curry, D'Angelo Russell, De'Aaron Fox, and Tyrese Maxey was putting a lot of pressure on this defense. He made some moving threes. He was making tough layups throughout the game, but the Bucks did find a way to slow him down in the fourth quarter. Maxey had 29 points coming into the fourth quarter. 29. He finished the game with 30 points. Okay. Not all AJ Green, but you saw some Pat Connaughton a little bit on some switches. AJ Green, you saw him have the matchup. You saw Brook playing a bit higher up. Saw some blitzing from Brook Lopez. After the game, Doc Rivers remarked that, that's the first time I've really used Brook in that blitzing role. And, now he showed me. Now I know he can do it. And to that, Doc, I just got to say, hold on a second. It worked in this game. It was cool in this game for sure. It paid off. We did see Adrian Griffin now try to use Brook higher up on the floor on a more consistent basis. Didn't work out too well. The guys went back, said, can we get Brook back into the drop? I'm not sure how much you want to lean on that, but it was nice to see it work in tonight's matchup. They found a way to make it work, and that's what you love to see. So a big shout out to AJ Green. It's got to be. He has to be in the lineup now going forward. He just has to be. He has shown how valuable he can be when the shot is falling. He's continuing to improve. And if Doc is true to his word about him saying there's going to be one of these young guys to crack the rotation, it's looking like it's going to be AJ Green. Again, 28 minutes tonight without Malik Beasley. No Andre Jackson Jr. in this game. Marjan was a scratch, so he wasn't even an option. Listen, AJ's won me over at this point. I got to see him on the court more consistently. I like seeing the team get some progress. I'd like to see this team get better. And I want to talk a little bit more about progress because we have talked on Locked On Bucks about some of the things that Doc Rivers has seen in the losses that they had during that 4-game road trip, right? The blowout loss to the Warriors, the blowout loss to the Kings. There were some common themes in there. Even in the loss to the Lakers, there were some things that some people were like, hey, Doc could have made this adjustment, but he didn't do it. Did he do some things in this game that show some signs of progress? I think we saw a couple. So let's dig into those after this break. With Stitch Fix, you get a stylist who understands your style, your size, and your budget. That's the key part for me. Understanding the budget. Listen, and they do all the shopping for you as well. It is the easiest way to update your wardrobe this season. Stitch Fix makes it so easy. Personally, I don't really like to shop all that much. And they save me that time and that effort. Plus, I get outfits that make me look good and feel good. And when you look good and you feel good, you do good. I just give my stylist my size, my style, and my budget preferences. I order boxes when I want, how I want. There is no subscription required. It's when I want them. And they just send me 5 just for me pieces. In addition to that, they also send me outfit recommendations and pro styling advice. I keep what works and I send back the rest. And if you don't love something, like I said, you send it back. It's that simple. Shipping, returns, and exchanges are always free. They're not at your pockets just because you didn't like it. They want you to love what you're wearing because style that makes you feel as good as you look, it's hard to come by. You can get that at Stitch Fix. So make sure you head over to stitchfix.com/locked on. I'm gonna repeat that 2 more times. See if you can do that 2 times quick. Stitchfix.com/locked on. Again, stitchfix.com/locked on. Make sure y'all go and check that out so you can look good and you can feel good. We all want that now. Like I mentioned, Doc has talked about wanting to see guys learning from their mistakes. He's talked a lot about processes, and there were some flashes of it, I thought, throughout the game today. Like I mentioned in, I believe, the first segment, the game was really physical. The refs were letting these guys play throughout this game. And you saw the frustration building from the Bucks. You even saw the 76ers at times looking at the refs like, where is the whistle? Where is the call? They were making like it was very physical. In the Kings game, it was also very physical. The physicality stood out in that Kings game. And the surprising part was that the Kings looked more physical than the Bucks throughout large stretches of that game, although the Bucks had the size advantage over them. And post game, Doc mentioned this as well, where he's like, listen, the Bucks in physical games, they should excel. The Bucks should excel. He said, but it didn't show up really in this game until the fourth, which I agree with. Again, tell of 2 halves, in my opinion, for this game, especially in that fourth quarter. The second half were the first time in the third quarter and the fourth quarter where you saw the Bucks outscore the 76ers. So yeah, fourth quarter, you see the intensity ramp up. You see the Bucks getting physical. And Doc mentioned, like, if you have to pick between playing in the mud or getting into a track race with this Bucks team, I'm going to choose the mud every time. And that's a concept and the mentality that this Bucks team is going to have to accept. Like, that's the truth. They're an older team. They're a vet-led team, right? They're slower. It's part of why they switch so much. Lean into the physicality. They're going to have the size advantage over a lot of teams most of the time, given the fact they have Brook Lopez out there with Giannis, 2 7-footers. Play up to that strength. Bobby likes getting paint touches, post touches. Play to that strength. You saw them make an adjustment in the fourth and really start playing up to that. They started playing physical. And Philly was really physical throughout the game, especially in the first half. Again, you were seeing Bobby getting sped up. You were seeing Giannis turning the ball over on the baseline. They were physical. The Bucks turned that up in the second half, fourth quarter in particular. We also saw, I mentioned it, the offense defense up at the end of the fourth quarter with Pat Bev. Now, one might say AJ Green was holding his own. I didn't even need to see an offense defense switch, but Doc didn't take the risk. He threw Pat Bev in the game for AJ Green. We didn't see that in the Lakers game. That was something people pointed to, like, hey, should have made a switch here or something to put a more defensive oriented lineup in the game to get the stop. We saw it tonight. Little things, right? Little things is all we have to grasp on at this point. We take it all on a game-by-game basis, and those were just 2 things in particular that stood out to me as some changes throughout the game that the Bucks made that show some progress that we haven't seen in some of the games very recently from this team. So I love to see that. The Milwaukee Bucks don't return to the court again until Sunday, which is a good thing. Get a little rest, get 2 days off ahead of the next game. It is going to be an early game against the Suns on Sunday, home in Milwaukee. It is going to be a noon game for the 76, or not for the 76. We don't care about the 76 we got going on. For the Bucks, noon game on ABC for the Bucks on Sunday. So 2 days off before the game. This was like a team that could use a couple of days off to rest. Giannis came into the game tonight with a hamstring injury designation. He played through it. Malik Beasley sat with the back spasms. We still haven't seen Chris Middleton. I think I'm up to saying close now for how many times we've said that Chris Middleton is close to returning. Listen, I want to see Chris back too. I love watching Chris Middleton play. I understand the role that he plays. I understand the importance of Chris Middleton. I want him back on the court as soon as possible. It's frustrating. I can only imagine how frustrating it is for Chris Middleton as well, given the fact that he's the one dealing with the injury. But of course, Doc was asked about Chris Middleton because, of course, we saw Chris listed as questionable ahead of the game. Was it Tuesday? No, this is Thursday. The game on Sunday. He was then marked out. We see him just marked out for the game against the Kings. Tonight, he's out. You just roll with it, right? So Doc Rivers was asked about it, and he said he's just not ready. He's close, as I've said for, 10 games now. It feels like it, but he's really close. I'll stop there. And I think Doc stopped there because, like he said, it's been 10 games. It's probably not been 10 games, but it's been a lot of games of saying he's close. All ankle injuries aren't the same. Understood. Want to make sure that Chris comes back in full health. I understand. So I'm not even really tripping on it. I just want to see him come back. Eric Name also asks, will it help being at home for the next week? And Doc added, like, it does help. We have the 2 days off. We may practice on both days, which is unusual to do, number one, and unusual that you have 2 days. But we feel like we may do it regardless just to get him some time in with the guys. So you guys, listen, at this point, Chris is close to returning in my book. I think I'm up to 5 closes on the close rater or meter of how close Chris Middleton is to returning to play. But that'll wrap up today's episode of Locked On Bucks. Definitely hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Appreciate y'all rocking with us throughout the week this week. We will be back for more Locked On Bucks coverage next week. Again, starting with that Sunday game that I mentioned with a post-game show covering what happens between the Bucks and the Suns. Should be a fun one. I'm going to try to make sure I get Frank or Justin on with me so you guys don't have to just listen to me ramble on for, 28, 30 minutes or so. So hope you all enjoyed it. Have a good weekend, and we'll be back next week with some more Locked On Bucks action.